He says, you're wrong, and boy, you're going to find out. And of course, Haman came from what he left over. But he's a complicated fellow himself, but he is very human. And he has kids. So you have to remember something. If there's a job opening that somebody has, and you're discussing it with somebody, and they have a relative that's also eligible and running for that job, you really got to watch what you say. And the general understanding is this fellow Doeg, he realizes David can do the job. David can console Saul, and Saul's an active king general. He gets in there and mixes it up. I mean, he's going to get killed eventually. Part of it's going to be a suicide. That's another whole discussion. But anyway, David's the man for the job. But Doeg says, let David be part of the team. Maybe he'll marry into the family. But I got to plant a little strife. I got some of my own agendas. Saul has a son, Jonathan. And everybody knows that Jonathan is going to be David's best friend. Even when Shaul turns on David, Jonathan sides with his best friend, not his father. Jonathan almost gets hit in the head with a spear by his own father. His father was going through a thing, and his father sensed he was favoring David, and his father threw a spear at him. So, but you understand, this fellow Doeg is talking up David big time. Everything great about David. We're going to make a t-shirt, and you're both going to wear that. Everything great about David. And Saul has a son, Jonathan, who's an extremely talented man. And he also can play the guitar. And when Doeg overdoes it on the compliments about David, it hits a nerve in Shaul. He keeps saying to himself, my son could do that too. And listen, no matter how great a person you are, if you think your kid or your close relative, is running for the job and someone else is recommending a stranger, it's pretty hard. No matter how great your character, it's pretty hard to move past that. It's, my kid. Even Moshe Rabbeinu had some issues with that, which Hashem had to make very clear. I'm sorry, your nephews will be leaders, not your sons. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't have the easiest time with that. But Hashem said, no is no. And the way the Medrash tells it over, by all the qualifications, Shaul was saying to himself, my kid can do that. My kid can do that. He can do it too. Oh, my kid can do music. He's mighty. He knows battle tactic, understanding, all kinds of things, Torah knowledge. And my kid's also good looking. But the straw that broke the Shaul's back was when he said Hashem Nimo. And Hashem Nimo, everyone understands to mean God is with him. He's one of those people that almost everything he touches turns to gold. He seems to do very well. He's a very successful fellow. Almost everything he does is successful. Looks like God's with him. So that little phrase really got under Shaul's skin. So even though Shaul's going to start off, once David comes playing and gets him out of depression, they're going to have a good relationship, but the seed of strife is planted. And, we have to remember something. I mean, you can do your own personal study on this. Sometimes a seed of strife is planted between two Jews or two groups of Jews, and it doesn't go away that easy. I know I quote Rabbi Wein too much. I'll try to quote Rabbi Fan or somebody in there. Rabbi Wein says like this: when you go to Israel, you will meet neighborhoods that will not speak Ivrit. You know what I'm talking about? There are some neighborhoods, they will not speak Ivrit. Why? So my Wein says the real reason is because years and years and years and years ago, when the dictionary guy, Ben Yehuda, started to make it that everyone in Israel should speak Hebrew and his kind of Hebrew, and he was not the most religious guy in the world, and he did make some trouble, so there are Jews 100 years later that they don't want to speak Ivrit because of him. So Rabbi Wein says, get over it. It's over. The man's dead, and the issues are gone. Maybe 100 years ago, you had some substance, but once he tells these people, get over it already. It's the state of Israel. Talk Hebrew. Who cares? It's over already. Stop fighting about it. And he points out that unfortunately, we Jews are slow to admit it. There are several things in Jews, some American Jews, so there's certain things we won't do or we'll steer away from because it's part of an argument from years and years and years and years ago, and it's like over already. I'm going to give you a fight that's in all yeshivas. I don't know if it's Israeli yeshivas is as intense and American yeshivas is as intense. Many moons ago, they had a question about going to college in Europe. And you don't have to be too wise to know. College in Europe is not college in America. Although if you don't watch it, I don't know what's going to be. I just found out a student of mine, a graduate nursing student, is suing University of Maryland. His professor, as a joke, gave him a Heil Hitler in front of the entire class. Right here, University of Maryland. Oh boy. Anyway, Hashem Yerachem. But anyway, I know there's good people too. There are good people, but keep your guard up. Keep your guard up. That's what Rabbi Kahana said, right? So, they answered by Baruch Bir Leibowitz about going to college in Europe. So he wrote a certain thing, and this is in Europe a while back, and his basic message was, his and Rabbi Elchanan Wasserman was, going to college in Europe and Poland, not a good idea. There are Jews, and I went to yeshiva with them, and you may have met them, or my Weissman may have bumped into them also. They will quote that responsa from what? 100 years ago, that he said in Europe Jews should avoid college. Oh, so it's still the same thing. And like if you read through the thing and you compare the college he was talking about to the college we have, it really is not such a good idea to bring that responsa into the discussion. It's a different world and the Goyish world, the Jewish world, and everything like that. And sometimes you just want to tell a person, that's a dead issue. It's over, or at least it's 3/4 over. You will meet. It's sad. We all know there's a shidduch crisis. There's problems with Jewish people finding proper matches. There are people who will meet a fine young man, and there are girls who say, "Oh, but he went to college. I don't want to go out with him." Why not? He can support you. He knows a little bit about the world. Oh, I don't know. Not yeshivish. Went to college. Get out! What's your problem? And this is like an old hangover. So Rabbi Wein and other Rabbanim also, they remind us that sometimes some of the old arguments and issues, some of them are still here, some of them went away, some might be coming back. But I'm just telling you is that it's a Jewish thing. Sometimes there could have been an argument about something from years and years and years before, and the issue really, really is gone. You'll hear from many, many historians. You will meet Jews who don't like to study Navi. They don't like to study Navi. They wouldn't want to hear any of this. Navi's part of the Torah. You have to learn Navi. You will meet yeshiva boys that think if you're a little tired or you're a little bored with the Gemara and you want to do some Navi, they'll say, oh, that's Bittul Torah. So, any good Jewish history book will tell you, where did that Mishigas come from? And it's a Mishigas. Because in the time of the Haskalah, of the Jewish Enlightenment, so the Haskalah people, they had a big pull towards studying Navi and bringing proofs from the prophets and less Gemara. So once upon a time there was a tumult. The Navi was used a certain way. People got a bitan and tam. So years and years and years and years ago, Navi was misused. So you still have people over 100 years later who say, oh, it's not good to learn Navi. What's wrong with you? It's part of the Torah. The argument's over. The trouble's over. Get over it already. So I'm just saying it's a unfortunate Jewish tendency. You have to watch out because that's what's happening here. Doeg is planting a seed in Shaul's head, conscious, subconscious, whatever it is, some little strife, some little jealousy with David deep in his head. This fellow David is going to help me. He may even become part of my family, but he's getting a job that maybe my kid should have had, whether you acknowledge it or not, it's in there, and that's dangerous, and it's going to come out later. So we really, really have to watch. Now, so we need a lot more information about what's going on over here with this whole thing, with the tunes and everything, and what David's going to do. So first, I'm going to get some help from the Mamlayas. So the Mamlayas says, what was the change Saul made? I don't just want a musician. I just don't want a musician. I want someone who's mitiv l'nagain. So Mamlayas teaches us, Saul said, there are people who play music. There are people who compose and play their music. I want the second one. There's a difference between somebody who can sing and play music and someone who composes the lyrics and the tunes and the notes and then they perform it. That's a big difference. That's a big difference. Shaul said, I want an artist like that. That's what I want. And of course, we know David became more and more prolific. Everyone understands, especially once he got anointed, he had help from Hashem, either new power or power within, however it works. So he says, I want somebody like that. I want someone like that. And there's a difference. Were you ever in school and you had a professor that wrote the book you were using? Anyone ever have the experience, you have a teacher, they wrote the book you're using? Mm-hmm. All right, now I didn't have it, but my son had it. I had chavrusas that had it. It is not the most pleasant experience. Is it, Mr. Sliam? And why is it not a pleasant experience, David?
Well, you'll never be able to understand it the way they do. I mean, they wrote it. They have this incredibly deep knowledge, and you just can never, ever get to that level. With them teaching, it's very, very difficult.
But do you remember what those kind of professors can't handle, David?
Well, criticism.
Yeah, they can't.
Absolutely not.
They can't.
Yeah.
I know in Hopkins, where you have a lot of yeshiva boys and yeshiva girls, and yeshiva boys and yeshiva girls don't always sit there like a bump in a log. They want to have dialogue if I'm taking the course already. And some professors have got a major run for the money because they wrote the book. And some yeshiva guy, yeshiva girl, or somebody with half a cup in their head, they want to question things. And some professors can handle it and some professors cannot. Can absolutely, they can't handle that. They don't do very well with that. But if someone is a composer and a musician, and they compose music and then they perform it, they don't necessarily have that gava, that arrogant pride. I'm not saying all people who write books are like that, but I mean, you've met them, and I heard from my oldest son, he had professors like that. But if somebody composes music and then performs it, I'm sure there's a few arrogant ones out there, but there it's more of, let me share my beautiful artistry with you. I mean, you see it in Jewish music, you see it in non-Jewish music also. It's a matter of, God gave me a talent, I've composed something, let me share it with you, let me play it for you. So that's a big thing. And Shaul says, that's what I want. Basically he's saying, I don't want bargain brand Tylenol from the dollar store, I want the name brand with the child safe resistant cap on top. I want the real deal. That's what I would like to have the fellow who's going to console me when I have my problems. Now, you really could ask, now, Mr. Doeg, you gave all these other qualifications. Now, he's going to be a composer, musician, and you add here all these things, that he's a strong guy, and he has great understanding, and a man of war, and he has a good-looking presence. I want a musician over here, Now, we do know some musicians, men and women, are as beautiful as their music, and some of them are not. I will never forget when I was a little boy in the bus in the 60s, we listened to the good rock music that was coming out, and boys will be boys, even when they're 10, and we would listen to the radio, and I don't want to say the name of the person, you can use imagination because she's not alive. There's a certain female singer with an incredible, beautiful voice. Was 10 years old. So all the little boys, now guys, we all know, little boys in camp and backs of buses, they have conversations. David, I got to believe in South Africa, they do that. And Mr. Cohn, I got to believe that the Frummies in Muncie, that they're not so innocent either. All right, little boys in the back of the bus. I mean, they're up to stuff. So we're saying, gosh, she must be the most beautiful woman on earth with such a voice like that. Extremely powerful voice. And then finally, the lady had a TV show. We all came in the next day. Oh my God! How can such a beautiful voice come out of a lady who look like that? What did God do that for? But it doesn't mean the music is going to be the same music, whether the person's handsome or ugly. It's going to be. Whatever Jewish singer you like. MBD, or Avram Fried, Oif Simchas, whoever you like. I mean, the music is going to be the music, whatever. So really, everybody asks over here, Doeg. What do you? The show's not stupid. What are you adding all these accolades, all these other attributes over here? What's the big deal? So first, the Rabbi steps up, Rabbi Levi ben Gershon, and some people, now the Rabbi is a lot of fun. I'm sure Rabbi Weisblum's educated you about him. Some people love the Rabbi, some people, he makes them nervous. The reason why he makes them nervous is because the Rabbi is a Rishon that'll say, well, the Yagada and Medrash say this, and that's nice, but let me tell you what I think. So some people cannot handle that. They can't handle that at all. Bruce can handle it. But he does that. He does, why he does that. Now just remember though, he will never, ever do it on a halachic Gemara. Never. If the Gemara says something halachic, Rabbi Levi ben Gershon will never say, well, I think this. There's a difference between, taking a bone with a halachic Gemara and a philosophical Gemara. That's another whole cake of beans. But a lot of people like his thinking. But please remember, if you study the history of Rabbi Levi ben Gershon, that great Spanish Rishon, he saved us from a lot of trouble. Okay? He saved us from a lot of trouble. Great man. Great leader of the Jewish people. So the Rabbi says, Doeg, what do you list all these things about him for? He says, well, when he remarked David is a man of war, it didn't just mean he was a man that could go to war. It meant he was a tactical fellow. He was a tactical wizard. Yeah, but still, you're here to play music. And he looks good. Who cares? So the Rabbi says very simple, to be the king's musician, you can't just be some spunky kid from Juilliard. You can't be some reject from the TV show Fame. You can't. You're going to be in the king's cabinet. You got to be a somebody. You have to have other skills. You have to look nice. You have to have all kinds of knowledge and understanding. And at cabinet meetings, we may call on you to hear what you have about something else. So Rabbi, very simply, common sense says, all these other attributes, even though they don't help his music, yeah, but you're going to be a royal musician. And you're not some troubadour from the Middle Ages wearing tights with a funny hat. So he says, to be in the king's cabinet, you got to be a whole well-rounded person. And you got to look a certain way, and you got to know something about everything, because you're going to be the king's musician. We don't want some village idiot coming in over there. That's how the Rabbi understands it. The Radak, Rav David Kimchi, so his take is a little bit stronger. Doeg said David is a Gibor Chayo. What does that mean? Gvuras Alev L'chol Davar. He's a courageous fellow for everything. He'll be courageous in your music, but the courage in David helped him kill the lion and battle the dove. And he knows all kinds of things, and Navon Davar means he's great at giving advice. And everything he does, Hashem is with him. Because again, the Radak says, you want all these things, because not just anyone could stand in front of the king. And he ends off, he says, this is what the need of the hour was. This is what was needed. So, David HaMelech is a very capable man of achievement here, and he's ready to enter into his father-in-law. Now I just want to remind you one thing as we sign off here, before we get into the real meat of it. When David gets the job, and then he is actually not in battle right away because he's too young, even though he's a strong, smart fellow, and he does his job well. He is going to marry Shaul's daughter Michal. And Shalom Bayis is going to be an issue. Michal is famous because she wore tefillin, but she didn't always wear tefillin. Now, in the world of political correctness and women's rights, people love to fight about Michal. Oh yeah, the princess wore tefillin. Let's make some changes. People love to fight about her. They love. But if you really study up on her, now David had some issues with her. Rabbi Reisman Shlita from Torah Das says there was an ongoing issue. David believed in external simcha. Show your simcha. Be dramatic about it. That's why when they recaptured the Sefer Torah years later, he danced up and down and let his knees show. His daughter said, well, the way in my family is internal simcha. Don't expose yourself so much in front of everybody. So he had issues with her. Loved her, but had issues with her. Rabbi Reisman says, she wore tefillin. She wasn't trying to tell her husband, I'm your equal, I wear tefillin. He says it was a punishment. Why was it a punishment? Because she told her husband, David, you're too much into dramatic external simcha. Keep all your frumkeit and joy inside. And whoever the advisors were, they said, Michal, what you're right is right for some people, but not for King David, the grandfather of Mashiach. And you're the wife. Wife doesn't talk to her husband that way. And to help you understand your husband and external simcha, you're going to wear tefillin. And it's going to stick out of your tichel. And that's going to be external Judaism. And that's going to help you learn how to appreciate your husband. So this man has a rough life, but as all David's, he will arise. All right, and we should merit to meet his grandson very soon in the Holy Land, right?
Amen.
And study Navi in the holiest land.
I need a ride home.
Amen.
I need a ride.
la 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 la